Hello, yes, that's right. It's Joe here for Joyrider TV, here at the US Multihull Championships. And today I'm joined by Tyler Myers, who has qualified in joint first place for Gold Fleet and is possibly one of the most knowledgeable people on the planet about how to make these Formula Wave catamarans perform. So we're just going to look at how to set up and little things that we can do just to get a bit more out of this, what appears to be very simple boat. Thank you, Tyler.
No problem. So going over the boat, there's obviously not a lot of settings you can do. You have no boom, so you're not adjusting any out-haul settings like that, no vang, but there's a lot you can do with the sail itself and with the mast rake. Now, there is quite a discrepancy among the top guys about how much mast rake you go for. A lot of these guys, especially with the formula cut sails, which are a little bit higher in the Leech, they go for a little bit more mast rake. Myself, I go a little bit further stood up, get a little bit more power, helps you through the chop a little bit better, but it's all about sailing style. I tend to foot a little bit more than most people. A lot of people like to go real high into the chop, into the wind to get a little bit less distance. I'm more of a fan of the speed to go a little further, a little faster. So for initial settings, I'll look at your shrouds, and these are, it depends on what length your shrouds are, but for the most part on our stock shrouds, you're going to be somewhere between 3 from the top and 2 from the bottom. I don't see anybody go all the way down, and this would depend on your mast rake. So,
do you have a way of measuring the mast rake?
Yeah. So what we've been doing lately is we have a tape measure, a long malleable tape measure, and we hook the halyard cleat into it at the top, and we raise it right up with the sail down, and we measure to the center of the back of the mast, or the main sheet eye strap there.
Right, okay.
And our usual settings are anywhere between 19 feet 7 inches to 20 feet 1 inch. So there's a little range there. The bigger the number, the less mast rake you have in that case.
Yeah, sure.
But usually people are running somewhere around 19 feet 10 inches is about the average.
So if you didn't have a tape measure handy, you could probably eyeball it with where your mainsail is sitting?
Yeah, so you can use it by, or you can judge it by main sheet tension. So if we're looking at your main sheet here, we're looking, we got the boat angled the right way, so it's going to be full with the sails. So usually when I'm pulling in, I'm kind of judging the same amount of pull strength, and that's about where you want to be upwind. I'm pulling, I'm not trying to kill it, but I don't want to oversheet and hook those battens. So you can see, or hook the telltales. So if you see, if I pull it a little bit tighter, see that Leech telltale on the second one up starts to hook in?
Yeah, sure.
If we ease it off a little bit, it starts to stream out a little bit better like that. And that's just the difference between 2 or 3 inches there. This is oversheeted, that's perfect.
Oh
right
wow,
there.
So it's a lot looser than you would imagine.
Yeah, a lot of people think you got to go really tight, really block to block and flatten the sail, but a flat sail is only going to help you if you have a lot of wind and there's not much chop. In the chop, especially like we've had here, you're trying to make your pocket a little bit bigger so you get a faster acceleration, even though you have a little bit slower of a max speed.
Yeah.
So for the next thing I usually go for is while we have the sail in, I do this every morning as I come back to the back of the boat here. So I pull the sail into right about there. Let me get your downhaul as well. I'll give it a little downhaul. So I'm usually just looking for getting the wrinkles out of the front edge on this.
Right, okay.
We don't want to tighten it so much that you start getting the crow's feet down here.
So this would be the minimum setting?
So this is,
or is it
this
just
is standard setting for upwind in a moderate breeze.
Yeah.
Once you really start building up the wind, you'll go a little bit tighter on this to open the Leech up, so you don't get those telltales hooking like they were up there.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so I'll tie that off there. So that sail looks pretty good here. So I get my boat set up just like this, and then I come to the back with the main sheet, and I go from right down the lacing here, and I pull in. There There we go. So that's actually pretty good setting for your upwind right there, even tighter than we were going with last time. You can see how the leech comes in, but you never want it to hook past the past the mast here.
Yeah, sure. So it's that second batten where the streamers are.
Yeah, the second batten, and this is probably just because we're a little bit off the wind at this angle. So that's why it's hooking that much. But if you come back here and you ever see that your leech is blocking your view of the mast from directly behind, it means you're either too tight or you don't have enough downhaul, you don't have enough rake. So we're just trying to keep that leech open while we go down here. And the other thing you can check while you're back there is your batten tension, because that's one of the only other settings we have on these. And obviously you want to push the battens in a little bit tighter to create a bigger pocket when it's lighter air, and when it gets heavier air, you want a flatter sail to go nice and fast at that higher maximum. So it looks like you have tapered battens here. They're a little shaved on the front edge. So they look pretty uniform there. That's a good medium air setting like that. I wouldn't say go any tighter than that. The sail looks like you have a formula sail, so it's a little bit more of a pocket than the stock sails, which are flat as a board.
So you're saying usually you would go one hole down on the clew? On this,
yeah.
Would you ever move from that, or would that just be for any wind strength?
So that's your general setting. A lot of these sails, depending on your rake, if you want to go up a little bit higher on the rake, if you want to stand the mast up a little bit, you may have to go down a little bit on the clew just to counteract that. So keep your mast a little bit up further, but it won't hook your leech as much. And the same thing, if you go back a little bit further, you might want to go up, but that's more extreme settings.
Yeah, cool. So would you just talk about the Cunningham? Would you really wind it on if it was windy?
Yeah, the windier it gets, the stronger you want to put that on.
Like a normal boat?
Just like a normal boat there. Yeah, they function the same way. There's just a little bit less settings.
Yeah.
But now you're on the stock chain plate up here. Normally, okay, so you're two down. Let me go to the side here and just visualize your mast rake. It doesn't look like you're too far forward. Usually on the 10-hole chain plate up there, most people will be either pinned through on the top hole, or they'll add a bell shackle to the top, which basically adds another 2 holes to the top of it for a little bit more mast rake. In the heavier air conditions, you max out on your block to block. If you have too much rake, you'll max out too soon.
Yeah.
So you stand up a little bit to counteract that. But for your main sheet tension, this is a pretty good setting for you.
So if it was super windy, put it on the top hole, but making sure you can still get that, you want first batten.
Yeah. So
in the right spot.
So on this boat, it gets to a point where you get overloaded with the wind. Once you get around 15 to 20, you'll start popping the hull upwind. When you're trying to really sheet in with a lot of rake, you're going to max out here, and you'll still have enough wind to blow out the top of the sail. It'll twist off a lot. So you actually want to pull the mast forward, give a little bit less rake as it gets windier, as long as you have the body weight and technique to be able to hold the boat flat. Once you can't physically hold it down, that's when you rake back again. But you get a little bit more power a little sooner with a fully stood up rig in the heavier stuff. So I tend to go forward. Yesterday in the last race or two, I was actually using my slop stopper upwind.
Oh,
so
right, okay.
I was tensioning out, which just stands the mast up a little bit forward.
I think that's kind of like the rig setting and the sail trimming covered. Now, if we could just talk a little bit about boat trim, like where you would position yourself on the hull.
Yeah.
Or on the boat.
For the conditions here, obviously we had a lot of short chop and a lot of bouncing around. So most of the time when I was going upwind, I was hovering between the hump at the center of the boat to the front pad. So I was going, if I really saw a lot of waves coming, thought I was going to start to bounce a lot, I'd go up kind of my shoulder into the shroud, and then when I was able to bear off and get a little bit of speed and the bow starts driving, I step back so it doesn't submarine under and stop you.
Yeah. So, but if you haven't got the speed and you think you're going to bounce, would you actually allow? Because I was trying going forwards a bit, and occasionally the water was coming over the bow.
Yeah.
Would you allow that if you didn't feel that you had the speed? to drive it through.
So if you're trying to bear off, these things, even though they're very floaty, they do tend to dive the nose a lot with a little bit of breeze, and that combined with the wave action we had, a lot of times you'll be diving through the wave low, and if you're not at the thin part of the wave, it'll stop the boat, and then you'll kind of float up, and then you'll have to reaccelerate, which is obviously slow. So when you see the bows start to go down, like I'm always looking at the seam right above the numbers there.
Okay, yeah.
The seam should be hovering right above the water, about 2 inches above the water. Is my sweet spot for my low hull.
Yeah.
And when I see the bow, or the wave, or sorry, the water level coming up towards that seam, I tend to step back just a little bit on the boat.
Yeah, sure. So I've got the teeth there as the indicator.
There you go.
Very handy.
That's a good indicator right there.
It's there for a reason.
So if you lose the teeth, you want to have those teeth underwater most of the time when you're going upwind.
Just chomping.
But you don't want the seam up there. Yep. That's a good
Nice.
graph. You got that on both sides?
Yeah, I think so.
There you go.
Yeah, cool. All right, and then downwind, you just same sort of spot on the hull?
Downwind, it's very weird out there. We were getting sometimes we were getting big sets of waves running downwind. Sometimes it was flat for a little while. A lot of times I was moving, let me sit on the boat here. When I was going downwind, I'm all the way out on the sheet. We go directly downwind on a run. I was sitting up here. If I was about to get a wave, I would come all the way up to here, and then I'd come back as I caught the wave. So I was really playing my body weight downwind. So bow down to catch it, slide back to ride it so the bow doesn't go into the one in front of it. But very inconsistent waves out there. So you just kind of try and cherry pick your way through downwind, catch a wave here and there, and hope you can pass somebody who hasn't caught the same wave.
Yeah, man. And then the last one, upwind angle to steer. I've got these long tapes on, and my kind of thinking was I want the tape just poking to the leeward side of the mast.
Yeah.
Because that's where you want the wind going.
Yeah, so that's what I use most of the time when I'm upwind. I do have an additional wind indicator on the middle, but most of the time I'm looking at your streamers here, and in this position, your fast position will be having that streamer just below the mast, just like that. You can point all the way to here, but it is very slow, and in chop, it's gonna almost stop you. So when you have a nice bit of speed, you can kind of bring it up a little bit, but once you see those waves coming or you start to lose speed, you want to drop it back down and accelerate back up again. There's a lot of up and down out there, but that's just more navigating waves than actual wind. If it's flat conditions, keep that just below the mast and just go as straight as you can. Okay, so I think that is absolutely fantastic insight into how to make these boats go. Thanks very much, Tyler. Yeah, wish you the best of luck out there on the race course. Yeah, and I'm always open. If anybody at this event or anybody online or anything ever wants to reach out, I'm more than willing to help them out, tuning or anything like that.
Yeah, and I'll put, have you got a website?
Yeah, I actually run a sailing school out of southern New Jersey called Point Sailing.
Yeah, so I'll put Tyler's website address in the description. So if you want to connect with Tyler, maybe even get some private coaching, then just hit that link in the description below.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon with some more on Joyrider TV.